BearSkills.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to go over some tips and tricks that should hopefully help you guys out in your matches. Now some of you may already know some of these, but the goal is to have at least one thing new that you guys take away from the video that will help you guys out in your matches. So, jumping into tip number 1, grab those stamina blessings. On the screen right now, you guys should see an example of what these look like on the map, and me grabbing them. So that way you guys know what to look for. These stamina blessings, I hardly see anybody using these in the Spoils of War and Carnage game modes, which is where they spawn. I hardly see anybody using these, and they're really, really awesome. Not only will they allow you to get across the map really fast because you have infinite stamina, that infinite stamina can also be really useful for avoiding your enemies, or even targeting your enemies, if you're trying to stay on them. So it's very, very important. Use those stamina blessings. I don't see people taking advantage of them, and they are really, really useful. Moving into tip number 2, the best game mode in Century Age of Ashes to earn XP is going to be Spoils of War. Now, I have a video out that explains this in further detail, as well as gives some tips on how to get the most XP out of your Spoils of War matches, and some strategies for each of the classes that are more suited to that class type for actually getting XP during Spoils of War. But as a quick summary, essentially when you play Spoils of War, you want to gain a bunch of gold because that's going to give you a high score towards the end of the match. And if you guys didn't know, the majority of XP you earn in Century Age of Ashes is based on the total score you have at the end of a match. So essentially the match that you can play that you get the most score at the end is going to give you the most XP. Spoils of War and Carnage are two, even Gates of Fire though, they're all great, but it really depends on what you can reliably get high scores in. If you really love Carnage and you get really high scores all the time, that's great. I mean, that's probably the best you're going to be doing in terms of XP gain. And same thing with Gates of Fire. If you play that and you're reliably getting high scores, then you're going to be gaining pretty much the most XP you can. Just keep in mind using boosters and stacking boosters with other people. But if you guys are having a tough time, getting really high scores, and I mean like over 3,000 score in your matches, because you want to be getting over 3,000 if you can, at least, every match in order to get the most amount of XP. And that's actually really easy to do reliably in Spoils of War. You don't have to be a particularly great player. You don't have to, necessarily have a great team or, a really great team composition. Essentially, all you do is when you play Spoils of War, you're going to want to gather as much gold as you can and bring that back to your base. And this gives you a ton of score. You don't got to worry about kills. You don't got to worry about dying. Just make sure you're getting a bunch of gold back to your base, and you should rack up the score rather quickly, which will mean you're racking up the XP rather quickly. So, like I said, I have a video on this that goes into more detail, and will give you guys some tips and strategies to actually go about gathering gold a lot faster and more efficiently with each of the 3 classes in Spoils of War. So if you guys are interested in learning more about that, definitely go check that video out. It should be very helpful. But that's tip number 2. Moving into tip number 3, activating your rage abilities restores your health. Now this isn't too useful for classes such as the Windguard or the Phantom. The reason being is the Phantom's rage ability gives it invincibility as well as untargetability, so you're not going to be taking any damage during your ultimate, or your raged ability. So not really, too useful. It's more of a nice bonus. Same with the Windguard. The Windguard, you get shields on you as well as your teammate. While those shields are active, you're going to be healing. And when you're raged, you're going to give your teammate the Berserker buff. But when you activate it, you will get a little health. But it's, like I said, it's more of a boost on Windguard and Phantom, because Phantom doesn't take damage during their rage ability, and Windguard already heals during their ability, even if it's not raged. So more of a small bonus for Windguard and Phantom. But the class that it really shines on is the Marauder. So if you guys are Marauder mains, make sure you're taking note that the rage ability will restore your health. So when you activate your rage and all the enemies get marked with the Hunter's Mark, this is also going to restore a bunch of HP. It seems to restore right around 90 HP. So keep that in mind. You may want to activate your rage. Maybe you're not in a position to really do much for damage, but maybe you're low on health, and activating it can save your life, which maybe can lead to either you getting some gold back to your base if you're playing Spoils of War, maybe even getting to the flag if you're playing Gates of Fire, or possibly make sure that the enemies don't kill you and you don't lose your bounty tokens in Carnage. So just keep that in mind. Activating your rage abilities restores health. Kind of a small thing, but very important and very useful if you don't know about it. Now moving into tip number 4, Windguard, when they use their rage ability on a teammate, they will have reduced fireball cooldowns. So when you use your rage ability as Windguard, it will give shields to both you and your teammate. It will heal you both and your teammate as long as those extra shields are up. And if the ability is raged, it will give your teammate a short duration berserker buff. What it will also do is it will give you a little buff that will reduce the fireball cooldowns to almost nothing. So you can fire out fireballs almost as fast as somebody with the berserk buff. Granted, they won't do extra damage, they will do the same damage as normal, but you will fire them out at a much faster rate. So if by chance you guys have had some wind guards take you down really, really quickly with more than 2 to 3 fireballs, and they're blasting you with a ton, this may be why. So it's very important to know. I actually recently discovered this, and it makes a world of difference knowing this information because you can get so much value out of it. Because not only will your teammate have increased offense, you will have increased offense. So it's really strong. Now moving into tip number 5, this is going to be nice if you are a Phantom or a Windguard player. Also good to know if you have anybody on the team that is playing as those either. So Blast counters Smoke and Mystic Shroud. So Mystic Shroud is the cloaking ability that the Phantom has when they go invisible, and Smoke is the smoke ability that the Windguard has. If you use Blast in an enemy Windguard smoke, any smoke caught within the blast radius of Blast will be dissipated. So a nice way to get rid of a nice large chunk of smoke. And Blast, because it does damage and it has such a large radius of like a hitting, and it does knockback, it can be really good to knock a Phantom out of Mystic Shroud. Either you will hit them, and the knockback will make them hit a object or wall, which will do a little bit of damage, knock them out of their invisibility. Blast also does damage by itself, so chances are Blast alone is going to hit them if it doesn't outright kill them. Because I'm sure we've all had opportunities and moments where we've been chasing down a Phantom that's low on HP, we almost get to them, we almost get them down, and they use their cloaking ability and they get away. If you have Blast on either Windguard or Phantom, and you throw this out, it will knock them out. And because it has such a large radius, it's actually pretty easy to hit a Phantom even if they're invisible. So something to keep in mind if you play Windguard or Phantom, because those are the two classes that have Blast available. Now moving into tip number 6, this is a basic one, but a few people don't seem to quite know about this yet, so I wanted to make a video just to make sure. So wind tunnels restore stamina. So wind tunnels are great. They get you across the map way faster than normal, and they are a great way to avoid damage. But they also will restore stamina. Most will restore up to 4 chunks of stamina. There are a few on Spoils of War that are a bit shorter, so they will only restore up to 2. But the large ones will restore up to 4. So very nice to keep in mind. If there is a wind tunnel near you and you are out of stamina, a wind tunnel is going to be one of the quickest ways to get all of your stamina back. Now moving into tip number 7, this one's very important and it's very, very useful. So if you don't know about it, it's very important to know about it. That is movement speed affects your projectile speed. So your fireballs, your frostbolts, if you're playing Marauder, all of these are affected by how fast you're moving. The faster you move, the faster that your fireballs and projectiles are going to move. And the faster they move, the harder it is to get away from them and avoid them, so the higher the chances are that you're going to actually have those hit. So when you are boosting is the fastest you can possibly be moving. So when you are boosting is the best time to throw fireballs and other projectiles out, as they're going to be at their fastest possible speed. So something to keep in mind. That's another reason stamina is so important, is so that you can be boosting while you're firing out your projectiles. That way they're getting the most speed they possibly can. As just another example, stamina is really important in this game. So it's good to know that wind tunnels restore stamina. So that way maybe if you're near a wind tunnel, you can get all your stamina back and then have the stamina to boost in order to have your projectiles move a lot faster. Now moving into tip number 8. This is one that most people are probably going to know by this point, but if you don't know about it, it's very important. That is to tap your brake while turning. Don't hold it. This is very important. When you want to make a sharp turn, maybe a 180, a sharp turn left or right, maybe up or down, you want to tap your brake during your turn. You do not want to hold it. It will make a world of difference. If you haven't tried this or you don't know about this, give it a try in your next match. Maybe go into free flight and give it a bit of a go, and there will be a world of difference. This applies both on mouse and keyboard and controller, and I would recommend making sure that your brake button or a key is going to be something you are comfortable pressing often and in quick succession. Now moving into tip number 9, don't waste your fireball cooldowns. So as you guys know, in the middle of your screen you have the 2 half circles that are white. These indicate your flame breath, and right above that you have 2 little dashes that indicate your fireball charges. Your first charge has a way faster cooldown than your second charge. And these charges, when they're filling up, that's indicated by a gray bar that slowly fills up. Once it's full, the dash will go from gray to being a orange color. Now, when your first charge is up and your second charge is charging, if you go ahead and shoot your fireball, you are going to shoot your first charge, and that will completely take away any progress made towards restoring the second charge. So, if you're using your fireballs for taking out enemy, gold carriers, anything like that, make sure to be paying attention to the cooldowns and the charges of your first and the second fireballs, because if you are, maybe a quarter of a second away from getting your second charge, you're going to want to wait, because if you just use your first charge, you're actually going to be wasting the time spent waiting for your second one to recharge. So very important if you don't know about it, or if you know about it and you're just, not really paying attention to it much. It is very important to pay attention to and keep in mind, because it will definitely maximize your damage output, and it will help you get kills a lot of the times. If you throw out 2 instead of 1 because you timed it a little bit better, chances are you're going to be doing more damage, you're going to be getting more kills, especially if you combine that with tip 7, which is that movement speed affects your projectile speed. So moving into tip number 10, the last tip of the video, everything tracks better going down. This applies to projectiles such as the fireballs. This applies to flame breath. Everything tracks better going down. So when you are attacking an enemy, you want to be above them. Also, you want to be above an enemy when they are trying to attack you. Essentially, you want to be above your enemies at all times if possible, because fireballs, flame breath, they will all track you a lot easier if they have to go in a downward curve or downward arc rather than an upwards. So if possible, make sure that you stay above your opponents. Very important. So that is going to cover all the tips and tricks for this video. Like I said, there are some of these that you guys probably are already aware of, but hopefully you guys learned at least one useful tip that will help you guys out in your matches in this video. And if you guys did learn something useful, make sure to give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as it does help out a ton, and I really do appreciate it. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one.